In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming pattern. We're going to focus in on the current conditions, though, first things first. And we have lots of cold air and lots of lake effect snowfall to talk about. We can see the jet stream is diving southward here out of Canada and really just creating this massive trough here for the eastern United States. A bit warmer here for the western United States, but really not even above normal temperatures, so it's probably closer to normal out there. Clearly, if you're anywhere in the central or the eastern United States, you're probably feeling colder air here, so you know that there is below normal temperatures overhead. I don't even have to tell you. It is extremely cold. Now, there's not a lot to go over here. We can see on the western end, there is some snow showers. Obviously not lake effect because this isn't heading off of any lakes or anything. This is just out there with these cold fronts, just some showers being caused there because of these cold fronts swinging overhead. As we work our way southward, though, we can see that there is some energy here along the Gulf states and the southeast. This is the type of setup that can cause a nor'easter to develop. This is exactly how they start. Usually, actually, they start here in the central United States, dip down into the Gulf, and then work their way up the East Coast. We'll have to look at the model guidance in just a little bit to see what's expected to happen with this storminess, but it doesn't happen every time. But this is kind of the blueprints to cause that to happen. Now we're going to focus in on the lakes here primarily because there's a whole lot going on. We can see there is some lake effect snowfall here swinging northward. It's the jet stream we're paying attention to. Look at that. You see how it swings northward? These black lines. That's why we see these snow bands heading northward here, which means for the southern parts of the Upper Peninsula, we are seeing some lake effect snowfall at this point. Usually it's the northern parts that see the lake effect snowfall, but in this case it's actually mostly the southern parts. We can see that there is a couple of areas here in Wisconsin and in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan also seeing some lake effect as well. These aren't even really our heaviest bands either. We do have some heavier bands, as you can see. Right in here, we see this heavier lake effect snowfall band starting up in the northern portions of the lower peninsula here, where we see the whites and the blues is going to be especially heavy snowfall. And as we work our way south, we saw that Big Rapids, Grand Rapids, as well as some other areas along I-96, we're seeing some lake effect snowfall, but that has really quickly come to an end, actually. As we work our way here towards Lake Erie, this is where the highlights are happening, really, of this entire lake effect event. We can see that this area was seeing some snowfall showers from the lake effect, but it has dried up. But really, it's going to be the Buffalo area in general that we're taking a look at the most lake effect. And I'll tell you what, yesterday and the day before, it was primarily this area that was seeing the heart of this band, because if you were in Buffalo, you probably saw near a foot to 2 feet of snowfall, whereas just a little bit further south here in Orchard Park and Hamburg here, so south of the Buffalo downtown area, it was a lot closer to 6 to 7 feet of snowfall as opposed to 1 or 2. So that just goes to show how big of a difference you can see between just a few miles. And now we can see areas north of the Buffalo downtown area seeing the primary band here, the blues being especially heavy snowfall in there. So areas near Lockport, Newfane, we see Ramsonville, Niagara Falls as well, seeing some of the heaviest lake effect snowfall at this point. Must be a sight to see there. We also see some of these areas up to the north seeing quite a bit of snowfall. We saw mostly Watertown here seeing this band yesterday, but just like our Lake Erie areas, we are seeing these bands head further and further north through the day today as opposed to the last few days. Now, what's interesting to mention is Watertown used to hold the old record for the most snowfall in New York State over a 24-hour period. Watertown, New York had that record. Obviously, they're a very prime position for lake effect right there, so it makes sense. But we do believe that somewhere in this area, probably Orchard Park, has broken that record by a lot. I think the old record was something like 50 inches, and we're, I think, hearing reports of 70 inches plus, potentially pushing on 100 inches in a 24-hour period. around these areas is the word that I'm hearing, which is extremely, extremely interesting. 100 inches in 24 hours is the most extreme number I've ever heard uh, out of a snowfall report ever. So even if we get close to that, I mean, even 50 plus inches is just, obviously so crazy to think about. But very, very crazy stuff happening, records being broken, and already this winter is off to a very, very interesting start. I hope, obviously, everybody's safe and hunkered down and nobody's trying to drive. But I do know that those lake areas are used to lots of snowfall, so hopefully everybody is handling it correctly. Now, what we're going to do is move on, and we're going to move on and take a look at the upcoming pattern and really focus in on what to expect over the next 10 days. Now, here we are taking a look at the upcoming storminess of the pattern, and we're going to be watching this, like I mentioned, because we need to see if this is going to eventually try to do something or if it's just going to kind of fizzle out. That's kind of the two options that we usually see happen. Now, we can see, again, on this screen how crazy this trough is here, bringing wide-stretching cold air to many different areas. That just means there's a whole lot of it to go around. So especially impressive here with this Arctic blast that we've seen through this pattern. Now, as time moves on, we do see that the storminess sticks around in here. So we're still seeing that by about Tuesday the 22nd. And look at that, by Wednesday the 23rd, we do get a nor'easter here for the southeast. But it looks pretty far offshore. Let's see if this one is going to do much of anything. And no, as of now, this model has it basically doing this as opposed to what would bring impacts, which would be this, obviously. So there's a big difference there. It could trend westward, but definitely that Gulf energy does eventually become a nor'easter, which is very, very interesting. Now, as we continue on towards Thanksgiving, let's take a look at this. We do see a piece of energy here hanging out, and it all comes together over the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. So let's watch that take place. A 989 millibar low pressure center bringing snowfall to a few different interesting states, and we even get a low out here as well. So we have our primary low, secondary low, and kind of a third low here, kind of hanging out up above. And as you can see, this just brings lots of storminess in general. Now, the interesting thing that I will note is we have seen this storm on particular on the models trend at being potentially something more than this, potentially being an East Coast snowstorm. But it does get here too quick. The cold air is there. It just doesn't reach the East Coast in time for the storm. So if the storm hits a little bit later, there'd be more chance at a more major snowstorm. So keep that in mind. Also, this model does trend at the lakes getting going again by next weekend. So keep that in mind as well. By Saturday the 26th, we have a strong low up here causing snowfall to a lot of the northeast and the southeast regions of Canada. Now, as time rolls along, we get a little bit quieter with the pattern. We do get a more major snowstorm heading for the Sierra Nevadas and the Rockies here. By the time we're reaching about Wednesday the 30th here, we do see that. December 1st through 2nd, we do get a bit of a kind of clipper system in here. Mixed precipitation, though, with that one. But we do see that December 1st through 2nd, and then eventually it rolls out. Then we get something interesting happening. We get a bit of a tropical system here on this model. Take it with a grain of salt. A bit of a nor'easter developing here, and something develops in there. But this model is showing the potential for an East Coast snowstorm in here. Take it with a grain of salt. This is very, very far out. But definitely, I think the reason why I wanted to show this is because it kind of just proves my point that I really wanted to get home yesterday. Really, the pattern is going to be so cold in December, I think, that there will be the opportunity for East Coast snowstorms, even far south there along the eastern United States in December. This is looking to be a very cold December. January is a bit of a question mark, but at least into December, the models are all aboard a very, very cold month. And that is a long-range prediction, so take it with a grain of salt as is, regardless. But we're almost to December, and all signs are pointing towards a cold, front-loaded winter. So this type of thing is going to show up on the models multiple times, is my expectation, through the month of December. And with odds, being odds, it appears like that would potentially pull through at least once or twice and really produce something like this. So we'll have to watch and see. Now, total precipitation through the next 10 to 15 days here, we see anywhere in the whites expecting practically no precipitation. Your grays, a tenth of an inch or less of precipitation. Your greens, a tenth of an inch to half an inch. Blues, half an inch to an inch. Yellows, an inch to 2 inches. Reds, 2 to 5 inches. Browns, 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. Now, total snowfall, no surprise here, we see quite a bit here for portions of the further south in the east here. Anywhere in the grays, we're expecting a dusting. If anything, blues 2 to 6 inches of snowfall, purples 6 to 10, pinks 10 to 20. Pastel blues, like we see here in southeast Canada, up here, that is going to be 20 to 38 inches of snowfall. And then the purple pastels within those very bright blue pastels, so the pink ones there, that's going to be 38 inches plus. Anywhere up to 100 inches of snowfall seems to be possible here. Now, as you can see, this East Coast snowstorm solution, because it would be a nor'easter, would potentially bring some more major snowfall here, as we see the Delmarva seeing potentially 6 to 10, or 10 inches plus here on this model, better yet. But again, take it with a grain of salt. It is extremely far out, and odds are that that particular storm is not going to happen, especially not that way. But I kind of wanted to show it more as a point that this model will be showing multiple storms like that, hopefully over the next month or so. Now, for the temperature pattern, we can see we have, again, very deep Arctic air across the entire United States right now. As we roll with time here, we see the cold is still around by the time we're reaching about Tuesday for this area, a much smaller area by this point. Then we get a little bit of a thaw here. By Friday, we have some warmer air working its way up the East Coast, but that's followed with another Arctic blast here, as you can see, for the eastern United States. And this time around, we do have a true positive PNA out west here, just hanging out as we continue on. We get another Arctic blast here into the eastern United States. This one's for Tuesday the 29th. Still, we have the warmer air out west, which is probably going to keep the colder air heading into the eastern United States. Here's another Arctic blast. This one's more major this time around. Right around Saturday, December 3rd, we get deep Arctic air reaching all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. And that really just sticks around all the way till the 5th at least, which is the end of the model run. Take this with a grain of salt. Again, anything past 10 days, you really want to take with a grain of salt. Even things beyond 7 days, I would highly recommend that as well. So we are showing this, and yes, sometimes it does pan out, but sometimes it really doesn't. So we don't want to, bet everything on this happening, if that makes sense. Now, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and even hit that bell icon as well to get daily notifications, because we do upload every single day, so you can catch every single video by doing those things. Be sure to like the video, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.